Welcome to Recovery Talks. This is your mobile meeting. I am here long away from any recovery support, making this meeting, audio meeting, for you and for me. So today's reading comes from the AA Big Book, page 51. Just randomly found this page, and I'm just going to read and comment just like I would at a meeting here. So let's see what it says. It says, "This world of ours has made more material progress in the last century than all the millenniums which went before. Almost everyone knows the reason. Students of ancient history tell us that the intellect of men in those days was equal to the best of today. Yet in ancient times, material progress was painfully slow. The spirit of modern scientific inquiry, research, and invention was almost unknown. In the realm of the material, men's minds were fettered by superstition, tradition, and all sorts of fixed ideas. Some of the contemporaries of Columbus thought a round earth preposterous. Others came near putting Galileo to death for his astronomical heresies. We asked ourselves this: are not some of us just as biased and unreasonable about the realm of the spirit as were the ancients about the realm of the material?" Okay, and I'll stop there. Now there's a lot to comment on here. First of all, it says the world has made more material progress in the last century. Now we have to remember this book was written in 1939, and as I'm reading this, it is now 2019. So just in the year, from the year 2000 to 2019, there's been a lot of progress as far as many things go. Internet, medicine, science, studies in physics, and so on and so forth. So there has been a lot of progress. And what is this passage talking about? Well, this is actually from We Agnostics. And myself, I've been sober for 18 years from alcohol, from drugs. And at first, I told myself that, if there is any kind of a God, it must be bad, because it seems like so many things that are bad and negative go on in the world, and so many seemingly bad people are in charge of things, and this was in the year 2001, was when I got sober. And so, I lived in my early sobriety. I think it was actually 1 month into my sobriety, I witnessed 9/11. And so, this was just confirming for me what I was starting to believe, that was, if there was a God, it wasn't good. It didn't have good intentions, or at least not in the sense that people thought what good was. And so I had convinced myself by reading this book called Why God Won't Go Away that that human beings are biologically designed to believe in some sort of a God idea, whatever you want to call it. And so because of this, I was able to convince myself to believe in something, right? And I knew that I was creating something to believe in, whether or not it existed. And I guess in a way I thought I could believe it into existence. And this was a start for me. And if you look in this book, I know it's difficult because for me, as the years went on, I started to identify more and more as a non-theist. So, I don't believe that a God exists, right? Not in the sense that I was taught to believe. Like as a child, I was taken to Christian churches, and I was taught that one day I would die, and then I would face judgment for things I did on earth, good or bad, and that at that point it's likely that unless I subscribe to some belief, I would be thrown into a pit of burning fire for eternity. And that was not very appealing to me. And as a child, that really frightened me. I was having the obsessive type of mind, a mind that could latch onto things, and because I grew up in an abusive environment, I began to look for threats, and I became hyper vigilant and hard time sleeping at night. And I remember being awake at night thinking about when the things in the book of Revelation would come to pass, because adults told me this was the truth. I believed them. So as the years went on, I, in order to get sober, it was as if I had to let go of the idea that I believed in those things, because I didn't believe in Christianity or the Christian God or the Christian religion. I couldn't accept all the things that they said. It just seemed too wild to me. And there was no explanation for the things they said. And then as I stayed sober, the arguments for God started to make less and less sense to me also. If it's something good, it must be God's will. If it's something bad, it must be my will. And it just got very difficult to sit in AA meetings and listen to people talk about their relationship with God, while inwardly I'm saying, oh, your relationship with God? Well, how does this take place? When do you guys talk? Do you have coffee? How can you do it? And so it didn't make sense to me. This God's there, but not if you don't need him. And so it's like, but God needs your help. You have to do what God wants you to do. And so the whole thing, I know this is an overly simplistic argument, but I'll have to think more carefully about it. And right now I'm just telling you, I came to the conclusion that I couldn't believe in this idea that a God existed. And so I went back to this, the thinking in AA, what they said. What did they say? They said, you don't have to believe in God. You don't have to believe in a religion. It's sufficient to acknowledge that I'm not God, which definitely I do not have, supernatural power or knowledge. And being a human being, there are often times when I can't differentiate the true from the false. And so I can accept the idea that I am not all-knowing and all-powerful. And even though there are a lot of things that I really want, I understand that my own mind can bend reality to the things that I desire or fear, by the way. And that's part of being human, but it's also part of what we call alcoholism. And so I can make the group my higher power. I can make the steps my higher power, the principles my higher power, actions my higher power. All that the only requirement is that I came to believe in a power greater than myself. Well, there are plenty of powers greater than myself in this world. One of them is gravity. One of them is the police. One of them is a group of people who has solved their problem where I had not. And I also have to remember that in this book it says that when we speak to you of spiritual terms, we mean your own understanding. And that in order for me to recover, I have to be honest about what I believe and don't believe. And even though this idea of me not believing in God has made me feel somewhat alienated from a lot of 12-step groups, I know that at the end of the day, this is me being honest. This is me staying in recovery. I have to be honest. I can't live in the fantasy world that I used to. And I've learned a lot about how human beings work. A lot of the time, we do live. It just depends. So I don't want to say we live in a fantasy, but I say we have selective attention. And I've learned through recovery that if I select to pay attention to, for example, gratitude, then my life ends up being happier. If I select to pay attention to things that I think that I want or that I don't have, my life becomes unhappier. So what about this? Why were these ancient people unreasonable? And when they say realm of the spirit, what do they mean? And do I have to take, so that's the other issue, is do I have to interpret realm of the spirit as what it sounds like ghosts or spirits or things like that? And I think no. Because why? Because I don't believe in spirits. I don't believe I have a soul. But I can tell you what I can do is I can accept that the word spirit or spiritual can determine something I don't quite understand yet, or that we as humans don't quite understand yet. So I can acknowledge that there are some things I don't know and don't understand. And so, perhaps I can say that's what the spiritual side of life is. These things that I know that somehow things seem to work. I don't exactly know how it works. Is it, spooky action, quantum entanglement? I don't know. And so I can admit that it seems like the more I learn about the world and about being human and about having a brain, the less I know. It's very, very odd. The more I know, the less I know that I know. And so I can admit that there's this realm of the spirit, as they call it. Well, I just think of that as, things I cannot yet explain. There are many of those things. And I think that if I can put myself in that position, then I can be in a position to be helped. And that's what I need in order to not be, in order to allow the existence of a higher power. I need to be able to be in a position so that I'm not the higher power, right? And that's all that's required here. So that's it for me today. Enjoy your day. Hopefully you stay sober. And if you stay sober, then you'll have another story to pass on to the next guy. All right. Take care.